Hello, everyone. It is Suzanne and Kim back with another episode of Energy Unleashed. Co-host Kim, hey, how you doing?
Hey, good, really good.
Good.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because I was trying to wear orange for our session today, but it looks pink. So
Yeah, and I wore orange by accident, so we're kind of like right
it
in
even
the
has a love,
because.
like the heart
Yay.
love.
I like that. We're talking about the sacral chakra today. We are going through a series, not everyone in a row, but periodically, so that we can go through all of the 7 chakras for those of you that might not know all the elements of the chakras. Now, I have this in the appendix of my current book, The Confident Empath, and each of the chakras is completely broken out in there. So it's a great tool and a guide for you to go back to and look at this stuff. But I think that it will be kind of fun for us to do every single one of them. And each of the chakras is an energy center that brings in love and light, kind of like fueling your body and consciousness from God source. And depending on the frequency, the resonance, the vibration, whatever, it throws off a hue or a color. So each of them have a color. And ironically, we both were doing the orange thing today because the sacral chakra is all about orange.
It is.
That's funny. I love that. So each of these chakras has a Sanskrit name and meaning and et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get totally into that. We're just going to go over the general basis of each of these. But the chakra that we're talking about is the second one, and it is located in the lower abdomen area. It includes the front and the back, obviously. And it's basically our guts, if we want to just get down to it. So it is really all about the intestines, the colon, the sexual organs for both male and female. And for male, chakras 1 and 2 are the prostate. And so we have to be aware of that as well. Now, they also, down these first couple of physical ones, hold an element. And I don't know, I think we mentioned in the root chakra session that was the element of earth, because it's all about grounding. This one is the element of your favorite element, which is
Water.
Yay. Okay. So water, meaning outward manifestation, anything liquid, inner manifestation, tears. Sometimes I think it's super interesting that people will have some trouble with like flooding in their house or water in their house. I had a nephew that was just like water and water and water. And I'm like, dude, you got to do some chakra work because I think it can absolutely transfer right into your home as well. So the other body parts that do get included, these kind of overlap with the solar plexus, which we'll do next. We have the kidney, the bladder, a little bit of the circulatory system. So these sort of overlap more so, I think, of the womb, the sexual organs, and the guts a little bit more when I do it here. So yeah, you can have all kinds of troubles. And our guts, man, as humans, right?
I know. And after having such a fun Labor Day weekend, I totally tested the gut theory.
Yeah.
But I was in the water. That was good. I did have water.
Okay, so you got half the chakra balance. There you go.
Yeah.
But we were just discussing earlier today because yeah, we both just came home from the cabin not that long ago. And man, when you're having one of those holiday weekends where everybody's whooping it up and drinking too much, but eating way too much stuff like white bread and pasta and everything we're not supposed to eat. But yeah, it does a number on your indigestion, or your digestion, I should say, or indigestion, either one. But yeah, we put so much chemicals in our body. So this is a tough chakra for everybody. This is the second one. So this would align with the second dimension of time and space, which is our plant and animal kingdom. So like we said, this is a very feminine chakra, even though it's both, but it is the moon planet. So
I was going to say the moon.
Yep.
I was wondering if you're going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
And the color orange. So in the book, we have a whole lot of different rocks that apply to it, but oftentimes we will look at things like carnelian is one of my favorite rocks for this particular one, because it has to do a lot with relationships, and that orange and that beautiful color of a carnelian is one of my favorites. And so, yeah, I think that this is one of the most important chakras for us right now. What's that? Is that a citrine?
Citrine this morning, which is so funny that you called and said, let's do a podcast. And I was actually using that this morning, and I was actually out with the trees and whatever. So
and citrines can go more so into the solar plexus, but definitely there are sacral as well, because a lot of crossover with that orange color, because we've got so many things in there. So this influences reproduction, creativity, joyfulness, and enthusiasm. So this is The relationship chakra, this is the feelings chakra. It's the emotional template. But it also is not just relationships, it's us in relation to. And so this has a lot to do with creativity as well. This is the creative chakra, as is our heart area and up here a little bit. But the imbalances can be really tough. I'm going to kind of rattle some of these off. Menstrual pain, inflammation of ovaries and cysts, sexual ailments or fungus, bladder or uterine ailments, digestive problems, ulcers, prostate, testicular, impotence, diabetes, hypoglycemia, kidney problems, lower back, pain in your hips, skin problems, anger, menace, hatred, apathy, blame, guilt, greed, power. So this is a big one. This has a lot to do with the flaming emotions. So kind of a tough chakra, right?
It is, because, we talked about the root chakra, and when you look at the relationship root chakra moving into, the sacral, it's that you're doing a different transition from like grounding beliefs into the actual pleasures, like you said, joy. But if it's dysfunctional or out of balance, it is just horrible. I mean, I think it's really tough on the body. Absolutely.
And you brought up a really good point. It's a growing into, as we move up the chakras, we grow in our consciousness differently. So the root chakra was all about unity, one. I mean, it's single and grounding and me and survival and etc. And then we move into a change pattern here. The consciousness changes and it moves into understanding, oh, I'm an individual, but I also have like awareness of everybody else. This is when we start to move into more like, oh, it's not just me, it's me and that's why it's not about relationships in terms of sexual passion or anything like that. But co-creating does come in here, because obviously this is where our reproduction comes from. But it is understanding that I go from a consciousness of just taking care of me to being aware of, oh, there's me and ...
Right.
more, right? So
right.
It's a change. It's a changing chakra.
So it's going from, so I have a question, does this development happen during certain ages of like childhood, where you like, kind of like death, you go backwards, root, sacral. So when you're growing, do you develop these chakras more as you go?
In utero, they are activated, and the development, I would assume, depending on the parenting and what's happening in the social environment, also does be aware of that. Because when you're coming out of the womb, it's all about you, survival. I just need my whatever, my sustenance, right? And then it's starting to go, oh, there's that other person that takes care of me. Oh, there's that other person. Oh, there's this. And so we do sort of grow through the chakra system because the consciousness keeps waking up, right? I mean, it's about the consciousness waking up.
Yeah,
and so
that's interesting.
Huh?
I just wondered about that, like how, I understood the backwards part of it, but it's like, it's got to go forward too.
And we do evolve. And, funny enough, we can just jump straight ahead in conversation and how the chakras do evolve. Because I mean, look at most spirituality journeys start when you're way older. We don't start out spiritually journeying when we're 7, I mean, you evolve through the consciousness levels as we evolve through our humanness as well. So this is
and your think about it, your digestion and reproductive and all of that is kind of a puberty thing. Like, so I was curious. I mean, I think that part of it's there, but then do you really develop that during your kind of teenage years?
I think that those coincide with the actual solar plexus too, because the solar plexus is when we're coming into our ego and our power, which is the next one we'll do. And so I think, they do sort of evolve through the actual, and our humanness evolves in 7-year cycles. So you could really consider the root chakra the first 7 years, and then 7 to 14, 14 to 21, etc. So that's
that makes total sense to me. I never looked at it that way before, but that makes total sense.
So we cycle, and everything's in 7s, and 7 chakras, go figure. So this oftentimes will show the yin yang symbol, because this is now going from that individualization into a partnership. And oftentimes in the body, we will find the yin yang symbol when we're talking about change and moving into this chakra, because we're representing the masculine and the feminine. No matter what body we're in, just to remind everyone, no matter what body, I'm in a human female body right now, but that doesn't mean that I don't hold masculine as well. So the right-hand side holds the masculine, left-hand side holds the female, no matter which sex we're in embodiment in. But this is all about, okay, we are pulling together the duality of things. So this is the dualism chakra. We start to move into the dualism of all kinds of things. When we're talking the yin yang, though, it includes the root chakra. So chakra 2 is the yin, which is the female. Chakra 1 was the yang. And so that was the male, even though we aren't really considering the root chakra fully male, because we also talk about Mother Earth. So they're all kind of mixed in there. It's not absolutes, if you're following.
I am, because I think of the male female kind of going more this way.
Yeah.
That has to intertwine. So I guess that intertwining
is actually what I was going to bring up. Do you remember what it's called? Do you remember what it's called? The Sushumna? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
no, I
the intertwining is the Sushumna, and this is when we start Sushumna in this actual chakra, is when we start to weave. And that weave pattern takes, like that old ribbon candy that we used to eat at Christmas time that was really crappy that our moms would buy. I don't even know if they make that anymore, but it will go up and down and through the serpent weave through all of the chakras. And this is when we start to get that dualism weave together. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. This is about bearing new life. This is about the womb center. This is about, that's why it's very female. It's very water. Water is receptive. There's flow. You know, each of the chakras hold a different kind of an element. And this is about flexibility. That's what cracks me up about this, because it's supposed to be flow and flexibility. And yet most relationships don't have that.
No.
Right?
Well, and I think about how, depending on how you grew up and your beliefs, your sexuality could be so down, you know, and not messy there, and so messy. Yeah. Like,
and that's one of the strongest points of this chakra. This chakra is about emotions, feelings, and we don't do well in that. And in my book, I write a lot about, we're think feelers, we're not feel feelers. You know, how do you feel about that? Fine. It's not a feel, you know? So we don't know how to feel our emotions and feelings well. We are thinkers. And so, and then this is also about our sexuality, our sensuality, our addictions, our desire. And desire is a really, I think, an interesting word to talk about when it comes to this, because we don't really talk about desire very much, but it causes connection, meaning I desire that person, I'm going to connect. I desire that job, that outcome, that thing, I connect to it. So this isn't always connecting with a person.
Right.
It's relationships with everything. But the desire is one of the pushers of the energy behind this, because the desire comes from me to connect. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. I mean, if you look at desire, it can be anything that you know, put your passion behind. So, you know, like you said, a job, that's one thing, but I desire good health. I desire, you know, a vacation. I desire, like, you put passion behind it, and it's a important thing to do.
And as tarot usually has things with an up and a down and a reversed and an upright, there's an upside down or a reverse or a two-edged sword to the word desire too, because I can also get so focused on my desire that I don't see everything else. And I get externally objected. I want that thing. I want that job. I even want that person, you know, I mean, that can be really important for us to understand that double-edged sword when it comes to the word desire, especially.
Yeah.
Passion, you know what I mean?
Versus obsession is a whole different place to be with that.
And we're still in those physical chakras where it's still about stuff, kind of, you know, but now stuff actually includes people too. So we can start to get really messy with this stuff. We can have our desire oftentimes turn to pleasure, which is the next step in this chakra. So desire is like the seed of the movement, but the pleasure is like rooting it and taking it and making it happen. So this chakra is all about change. And it's important for us to understand movement and change is what this chakra is. And yet it's so funny to me that oftentimes we get really frustrated or scared when relationships change.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that weird?
It is. It is. Change, if you're, you know, really anti-change, this chakra is going to be really, really difficult.
Yeah.
It's I was just thinking about, I mean, to actually embrace change and move forward in a fluid way, is so different than change coming and you have no idea what to do with it. Like,
Yeah.
and you fight it, and
Yeah.
that fight just creates so many other problems and health issues. Absolutely.
This chakra also drags in the belief systems from that root chakra. Now, and when we come to pleasure, it's really interesting because this will be led by core beliefs that are instituted and anchored by that first chakra. So, for example, what if my pleasures are, I'm just going to take a nap, I'm just going to watch the football game, I'm not going to give a crap about this, that, or the other thing because it's my day, and on it goes? Or is that not acceptable because of the belief systems in my family? So the pleasure can be routed in different ways depending on the belief that came from the chakra before that, because they're foundationally building upon each other. It is very much like a tarot deck that tells a story that builds out. So we've got those belief systems in the root chakra that will determine desire, pleasure, all kinds of things, change, motion, relationships. How we do all this stuff comes from those actual beliefs, if that makes sense, right?
It does. Either embracing it or, fighting it. It's definitely on beliefs, based on beliefs.
And we can get really trapped in the pleasure thing too, because it's like, now I don't give a crap about the beliefs and I'm just going to get trapped in the pleasure and I'm not going to do anything responsibly. And this is when we also can find ourselves leading into all kinds of other elements within this particular chakra too, like, addictions and things like that, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I want to stay on emotions and feelings for a second, because I think it's interesting that people think emotions and feelings are the same thing.
Explain that, please.
They really technically
I know,
are.
but I know. Go ahead.
Yeah. So emotions and feelings, people oftentimes will put them in the same exact category, right? Emotions and feelings are similar. Okay.
Mhm.
And they, emotions tend to refer to that which is not tangible, while feelings are very tangible. Okay. So emotions offer the sense of life itself. Your sense of life is an emotional form in which you experience things. This is our emotional form in the way that we experience the things. They establish our attitudes towards things. Okay. And this provides for the way that we do the pleasure, or how we drive through life. Okay. So emotions, the objects will bring forward your emotion. The thing, the pleasure, the desire will bring forward my emotion. So it's natural, and it's I don't want to even say it's natural for us to want things, but it kind of is. Right?
Yeah.
It doesn't even sound like that's healthy. But we can have curiosity for things, we can have fear for things, we can have I don't really care, ambivalence, right? I mean, when you give it emotional energy, it becomes more significant. When I give curiosity or fear or a situation more emotion, more power, more energy, it becomes more of, I'm owning it and I'm attaching to that thing. I'm attaching to the process. I'm attaching to the person. I'm attaching to the job. So it becomes more meaningful. Okay. When I put emotion to it, it becomes more meaning. And in the world of energy, the minute I put emotion to a thought, it becomes concrete to move forward for manifestation. So really understand, emotions are a change in movement. That's why this is such an important chakra. So when I'm obsessing and I'm not thinking about things, and I have a subconscious obsession about worry about my kid, worry about my kid, worry about my kid, and then I put the emotion to it, oh my God, now I'm really scared and my whole heart is doing this. And that's when things start to manifest. Now, I can't make my kid do or not do something, but I am trapping those two together and creating a reality for myself, because I'm crisscrossing emotions and thoughts. Do you see it captured together, almost like a net or a blueprint? Okay. Does that make some sense?
It does.
It's really important to know that this gives meaning and structure when we start to get into the emotions of things. Now, emotions serve as the feeling factory. So emotions will bring forward the things for the feelings to do. Okay. I want to read this one. As objects in your world include emotions within you, they are collected in the subconscious and begin to accumulate. This is especially so when the events are repeated. Ultimately, they form a final emotional conclusion about life, how to live it, more importantly, how to survive physically and mentally in a world of chaos. When this happens, the feeling is then born. So we're making a process in our life and we're creating reality with the emotion. And then out of that, we form a feeling. So feelings are things like I'm exhausted. Okay. Exhausted is not an emotion. An emotion is maybe I'm overwhelmed. Okay. Maybe I'm hopeless. Maybe I'm all these other things. But the outcome of that overwhelmed and hopeless is exhausted. Do you see?
Do another example, because
They're two different things. Like another one is I'm confused. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
confused. And the emotion in that is I'm really uncertain. I'm scared. I'm not safe right now. I don't understand. I'm not, all of those emotions are coming through. But the feeling when I get done is I'm just confused. So they're really two different things, but they play off of each other very tightly. And in the end, I don't think it really matters that people confuse these. I don't really think it matters unless you're really doing a lot of work on it.
I was going to say it matters in that you're trying to figure out like if you're saying I'm confused.
Yes.
What's underlying.
Exactly. So if,
that.
like I said, it doesn't matter if you're not doing the work, but if you're doing the work, it matters, right? So let's do another one, embarrassed. The outcome feeling is I'm embarrassed. The emotion behind that is, oh my God, I'm not good enough. They're not listening to me. I'm not valued. I'm not even seen or heard. I'm invisible. I'm, insignificant. And the feeling that comes out of that is because the scenario that I picked up now and I'm working out is I'm just embarrassed and I'm going to shut up and I'm just going to disappear. Right. So they're really two different things. And I know that's really a lot to think about, but I think it is really important because feelings are the products of the emotions. They're not the same.
Right. And I think I know in my life and people around me, the feelings are always at the top. Like whatever you're doing or whatever brings the feeling, like to search for that emotion to understand what's there.
That's the
day
work.
to day. That's
yes.
the work, because it doesn't just come that way. Yeah.
And lots of people will just say, I'm just angry, I'm just mad, and they'll leave it at that, which is more of an outcome of something. When we're getting down to the emotion behind it, it's my worth.
Yeah.
Okay. So
it's
these
kind
are
of
really important.
like, use an example of somebody like angry in life, just angry at so many different things. It has to, like, I would assume that it's a trauma with a lot of emotion based in that type of trauma that just has brought that person to just so much anger they don't know how to get past it, right?
And when we just stay in anger, it's really easy to stay in loop in that. But when we do real deep spiritual work, we tear these two things apart in this chakra. So this is the dualistic chakra, but yet we lump it all together and we never really get deep into the work. So it's important for us to know they also loop again too, meaning if I'm embarrassed because I don't feel like I'm enough, and now I'm embarrassed and now I really don't feel enough. And we do this. Do you see how it loops back and forth? So this is why I believe people lump them in the same category, even though they're two distinctly different things.
So the thoughts, the track, continuing that track of thoughts, bring feelings, which then underlying are the emotion.
Yeah. And it's really a lot of work. That's why most people skip it.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, feelings can be low-key, stable, sustained over time. I can keep them. I can just keep them going. Emotions are short-term, like, oh my God, I reacted. It's more of a reactionary thing too, okay? Because the emotion is how the body reacts. And then the feelings that brings in more of a belief system too. So they could be more long-term. Does that
make sense? Like when you, like, a good example would be when I would go to a funeral, I would just start crying. Like, of course, I was empathing other people around me, but the emotion would come forward.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I'm sad, okay. The emotion though, why?
Yeah.
Feeling that emotion, which was I was empathing other people's energy as I went into a funeral and understanding that emotion that came forward from that.
And that's why the empath is so messed up in their gut all the time, because this is the most empathable chakra we have in terms of, because this is the feel center. So it's really hard, right? We're scared to feel. Remember, we're scared as humans to actually feel. When we don't want to know about feelings, and we don't understand that pain is the same as joy sometimes. It's just the same, but in a different perspective. We don't know how to talk about one thing. We only want joy. I don't want pain, but pain can be joy and joy can be pain. We can learn from those. That can all be, these can all mush and meld together, but we don't like to talk like that because we want everyone to be happy. We want everything to be good. Okay.
Well, and you can also be told to just suck it up. What do you like, especially like think about going to school.
Yeah.
You know, how do you show your feelings?
Yeah.
Real feelings without getting, bullied and
Embarrassed. Right. And now we're
embarrassed
back to
and
the
all the
feeling.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're also, we don't like to feel pain, so we avoid it in every way, shape, or form. And again, back to an empath, most people are, I don't want the eggshells to break, so I'm going to help everybody not feel pain. I'm going to take everybody's pain, right? So we avoid pain and we avoid pain. So and people avoid pain because there's a lot of things like loneliness. I feel alone. I feel helpless. I feel hopeless.
Yeah.
Those are the scariest ones underneath, those feelings of, oh my God, So those feelings of hopelessness and helplessness, again, go back to the actual emotion of I'm not safe or I'm not enough or I'm not worth anything. So these are very difficult because they'll braid together, and we don't want any of that stuff. No one wants to feel helpless. No one wants to feel alone. I had a client today. She just teared up. I said, what's the biggest scary thing? And she said, alone. And I'm like, really? What's so funny in the second chakra is that's also the second dimension of things like plants and animals and trees. I said, you're never alone, but we're taught in this chakra that it means people, and it doesn't mean just people. It means the plants, it means the animals, it means the trees, it means the bugs, it means everything. It's the clouds in the sky. So we can have emotion when I tap into the wind. When I tap into the wind, I feel power. I feel filled. I feel empowered. It's amazing. And then my feelings can become happy. Do you see how that works? Yep. And so all of us go, oh, but I don't have a partner that's going to make me fulfilled in life, because that's how the old society tells me it works. And we have destroyed this chakra in so many different ways by making that assumption.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's really hard.
Yeah, you just look around, in different relationships and people and all the things, and you can see how it's a struggle. I think everyone has struggled with this. Absolutely.
All right, let's take the next step, which is even the harder struggle, which is the big one on this one, is sexuality. So this is sensuality as well as sexuality. So how we feel about ourselves, because it holds the reproduction systems, right? It holds the actual reproductive organs in the body. Therefore, this has to do with true sexuality. Now, sexuality in our world has been completely programmed and destroyed and distorted. And I can probably guarantee most people that are listening to this were uncomfortable with their first sexual talk with mom and dad, if that's who they even got it from, much less the teacher in school or the kid down the block, right? So we are not understanding or teaching or being aware and embracing sexuality is a life force energy. And the union of sexuality, true union, not just getting banged. Sorry, that probably is appropriate.
That's where you go to.
Probably we should make that get out of there, but we won't. Just doing whatever. It is not a true union of two soul, frequencies. And so we have repressed this. We've exploited this. We have disgustingly paraded around in TV, in media, in everything under the sun, which then destroys our own worth and sense of worth for our own self, which then destroys our relationships, and on and on. This is the biggest messy thing about this chakra. And I can guarantee there's so many people that are confused about sex because it's about power for them, which isn't even in this chakra. It's not even the right chakra, right? No. So it's really tough. And when we want pleasure from another person, now we're back to the pleasure and the desire, right? Mm-hmm. And I desire you, and I want a pleasure from you and with you and for you and because of you. And then maybe on the other end of the spectrum, I deny myself pleasure. I can't do that because that isn't right. I'm, growing up in this religion and that religion, and on it goes. So this has just messed up people's heads since day one.
Oh,
it's a lot.
There's a lot. There's also, I keep going back to the teenage years, because after going through it myself, but with my children, and what a time to, grow when you're growing up in those teenage years. It's so confusing between your parent beliefs, your religion, what others are doing, like what's acceptable with others, what's acceptable with you. It's really a confusing time. I can see why so many people have issues and a hard time with relationships coming out of that time.
And sex has changed over the eons too. We can almost follow the predictability of how sex becomes more and more programmed through the eons,
Yeah.
then it becomes more, the crazy times when it's just, hordes of people doing God knows what all together, down to then now we have, no, you don't do that until you're married. And it's just been so confusing for people. And then you're ashamed, or when do you get to know your body? And all of those things are very confusing for people. And I think that this really messes this chakra up immensely.
Is,
And guilt, and more guilt,
yeah. Is this kind of the chakra that needs to work when you have like anorexia, bulimia, that kind of thing? Is
Yeah,
that?
because this is the addiction chakra. So
Yeah.
when we're in the self-hate mode of the body, we
Mhm.
will, be cutting or not eating correctly or drinking too much or doing whatever drug-wise or whatever it is that's the addiction, which can also obviously be things like porn or be things like, anything, shopping, whatever it is that is addictive to our body to be able to feel some sense of control. And oftentimes it is around the sexual elements to it because we're so messed up in the programming. And
Right.
the dark forces love that stuff. I mean,
Eh,
this is the easiest thing to twist up. And don't fool ourselves that, we're so numb to this. I mean, think of what we let our kids see on YouTube or TV or anything under the sun is just, on the things that are normal on Netflix or whatever right now, we would never have seen even when we were children. And
No.
it's just numbed and dumbed down to just go, oh, that's normal, as is killing, as is everything else,
Yeah.
So these are really hard.
I
This is a
remember when like
chakra.
the Graduate came out and it was so scandalous,
Yeah.
like, oh my God. I think my
Yeah.
babysitter let me watch it and my parents were just furious.
Yeah. Yeah.
I understand
And
any of
nothing
it.
even
I was
happened,
right.
Yeah.
And there was nothing really happened.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was all
This has a lot to do with
insinuated.
I'm sorry, what?
It was all insinuated. It wasn't just, showing it, just insinuated.
Yeah, for sure. And that let your imagination do God knows what.
Yeah.
This particular chakra, because it is the female chakra, is also about nurturance. And so when we don't have the nurturing, this is when we would flip then into those addictions, like you're saying, or we would spin off down the road. So I don't have nurturing from that maternal instinct kind of a situation when I'm growing up. I would oftentimes maybe use my body to feel that I'm finding nurturing through sex, but now it's just sex. It's not having love or making love with someone. And so that gets more and more addictive too, because then I need more to prove that I'm better and that I'm in charge and that I'm in control. And this will become the addiction, whether again, it's sex or something else. And so the nurturance is a huge part because the actual skin on our body is the largest organ we have, right? I mean, we know that. And it's important for us to learn how to touch. And then, God forbid, sexuality and all the horrible abuse and all of the stuff that happens can screw all that up. So this is probably a really tough chakra. In fact, I think it's probably one of the toughest chakras there is, in my opinion.
I agree. I'm just flashing back to myself and going to I'll go
Right?
to Catholic high school and, I don't know. It was really not an easy time.
Well, and you got mixed messages, as it does everyone, I mean, TV lets us, or whatever entertainment purposes let us, we see everything that we probably shouldn't. And it's really not about educating us in a way to love our body by any way, shape, or form. It's all use and abuse and get what you want and power at the end. The need for pleasure pushes on and pushes us to seek out outlets. And that's where the addictions come in. So it's that pleasure pushes kind of a thing. And I need to find more and I need to find more. And it's never real. So it's not good enough. It's the illusion. And that's the really tough one about this one. We also have illusions on social media for relationships and families. Oh my God, look at so-and-so's life is so perfect. Look at her pretty pictures. Isn't it great? Oh my God, her life is great. And it's half of it is crap. And we fall for it all the time. That's why infomercials work, right?
Well, and looking at it that way, you just said the both ways. If you're out there pushing pleasure, you're going after it.
Yeah.
On the other side of it, if you have beliefs that create fear
Yeah.
around that, then you're totally stifling everything around. There's no balance in either place.
Well, and oftentimes our pleasure and its gratification is dependent on what the social views are. Can I find pleasure in this? oh, not in my social views, or not in my religious views, or not in my family views, or I'm going to find it because of my family views. So there's so many sides to the sword on this particular chakra. It's crazy.
It
And
is.
this is why it's the addiction chakra, because no one wants to freaking feel anything when they're in that loop pattern, and they're so sick and tired of everything that they don't want to feel. Therefore, they numb themselves. But this is what is so dangerous for us, because then we are programmable even more. And that's the really tough loop cycle of this particular chakra.
Oh,
right?
yeah. It's big. It's a
Yeah.
big one.
Yeah.
So
Addictions are different than habits. Habits are things that we just do again and again because we're sort of not thinking and we're choosing to, and we're just doing them. Addiction is way more than that. So really be understanding if you are at a place where, you're drinking every night because it's a habit. That is a very real thing right now. You cannot imagine every single person that I have, not every single, but so many clients that have come in, especially since COVID, I'm drinking too much, I'm eating too much, I'm doing too many sweets, I'm not doing this. And, and it's because it becomes habit. And is a habit an addiction? Just because you do it every night, does that mean you are addicted? Well, maybe yes, and maybe not. Right. So it's really important for you to know that there is a psychological component and a physiological component to the actual person who cannot control it. And whether that it is watching something, shopping, eating something, drinking something, whatever it is, it's because that mental and that physical conditions are involved. And that is different than just the habit of I'm absolutely bored, and so I'm just going to do it again.
And you're just not mindful. Like, I think sometimes you're just motoring through, and I'll have a glass
that's why
with,
that's why the habit turns into the addiction.
It does.
That's why the habit turns into the addiction. So there is that hump in the road where all of a sudden, I'm motoring through and I'm just doing it again. And all of a sudden, 4 years later, you're like, oh crap, so that's really important.
It's really important to, I believe me, after last weekend, I'm figuring it out.
I think I was there with you last weekend, so probably the same one. This chakra is also about becoming disconnected. And I think this is the biggest warning that I would like to say is that when we become disconnected, from our emotional state, this is when we are so susceptible to programming, and we are not using the actual divine vehicle of the body to be able to go in and do a double check or discernment or wait, what do I really believe here? Because we're not using the gift of this chakra. So our sentience is the gift of this chakra. It's our feel center is our gift. And it's important for us. If we're disconnecting, we're susceptible to things like mind control, staying in our head and having chatter, that ridiculous hamster wheel that goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. Desensitization, meaning I've already seen somebody blow up 5 times. I don't even care anymore because that's, it's just the way it is. That's why video games are so extremely, I think, detrimental to people. Our government, our politics, our medicines, our pharmacies, our educational systems, our financial systems, I mean, you name it. These are all the things where we are wanting to disconnect because we can't feel that we even can deal. And the reality is you really can. You can get to neutral and you can find a feeling, even if the feeling is disgust, right? I mean, it's important. So
especially right now, it's really important to at least be aware. And try to be neutral, but to not be aware and stuff it down and ignore it.
And again, when you're disconnecting, you're giving consent. So be aware of that.
Right.
This particular chakra is one that holds the clairsentience ability of a psychic skill. And we all, in my opinion, have psychic skills to some extent because these chakras are part of our birthright. Mm-hmm. And so what this means is heightened awareness of is the clair heightened. And a heightened awareness of the feel center. So clairsentience is the ability to sense other people's emotions, to sense other people's, I can feel that ghost is a female. I can feel that you're really sad, etc. So this is where the empath can start to have some trouble because they will step into bigger and bigger playing fields in this, and it can get really detrimental to your health, right? I mean, this is hard. So
even thinking about the consciousness of one around that with whatever that energy is kind of across the board can be really difficult, as an empath.
This is a tough chakra. So it's really remembering and understanding that this is the dualism chakra. This is about understanding polarity. This is about understanding that we're in a dualistic reality here, and polarity and dualism and this and that, yin and yang, black and white. Those are all part of our existence. And this is the part of our reality. And this is where we also get ourselves in trouble because we want everything to be the same, and that doesn't work. And so this is the one then that will lead into the next one we do whenever we choose to on solar plexus, which gets into the will and the actual taking that desire into movement of, power. And so this is why this is an important one to discern. What is it that I'm really doing? Where am I making this change? Because I went from unification of the root chakra to a dualism and a polarity with a choice, which is then about change and movement. So this chakra is a lot about change and movement, and that's super important for us. And most people don't like change and movement, right? They don't like that. So
no, have to figure it out. It's hard to move forward.
This is a hard chakra, in my opinion. Hopefully this gave some people some insight into it, because it's very obviously offline in most people and in our structure itself. So before we round down on that, I would just reiterate again that the root chakra aligns with the first dimension, which is earth, wind, water, fire, ether. The second chakra aligns with the plant and animal kingdom. So a lot of people that are really attracted to plants and animals and that animal kingdom and the elementals and all of that stuff can even have more trouble in terms of empathing that entire kingdom in their gut and belly too, which is tough.
It's tough. Well, maybe you should just go into that a little bit more, because when you talk, before what we're talking about and the emotion, the feeling, but when you're empathing the animal kingdom, especially right now, a lot of animals are leaving planet really quickly. What is that like for the empath? Like what?
Yeah, an empath that's picking up 2D on a collective basis would be those people that I just love the animals. I would do anything for the animals. I have a sister like this, and it's just like, oh my God, everything's animals. And she thinks I'm horrendous half the time because I like animals, but I'm not like that by any means. Now, on the other hand, she also feels the pain of animals. If she sees one of those commercials where there's animals that are struggling, or if she gets wind of somebody being hurt or a puppy mill, she will take that and ingest that into her body so deeply and have such sadness, hopelessness, fear, anxiety, anger, all of that stuff. But if she doesn't have the skill set to discern, oh, the sadness in my body today is really about the animal kingdom. I'm really empathing puppy mill. I'm really empathing the trees are being destroyed. So it can be the plants, the animals, all of the elemental kingdom. It can be all of that stuff. And it's very, very difficult for us, if we're not trained, to know that that's not my feeling. That sad isn't my feeling. So the sad is my feeling. So then we want to get down underneath that to the emotion. What's the emotion under that feeling? Well, crap, I can't even own that because I'm not the sad. It isn't my sad. So this is why that process is critical.
And I think with all of the different tragedies going on, like the hurricane and Lahaina, Maui, and there's all these different things going on where there are animals dying, there are trees and plants dying with people.
Yes.
But that's important to know that when you start to, because I was really empathing, we've already talked about it, a lot of what was going on in Maui. And it took me, and I knew it was so it took some work.
Yes, it is work.
Allow that to move through and move it forward, because I was really, really having a hard time.
And the way that I write it in the Confident Empath is that there's a process. First of all, you're asking, is this mine? You're discerning, this is mine or isn't mine. And then you are even going deeper on the boundary of that. I can feel this is outside of my boundary. This is not mine, right? And then I'm scanning my body to go, where's it stuck in me and what is it? Because it's not mine. And then I learn how to move that through. So if I don't do those discernment processes and go through the steps, is it mine? And discernment and boundaries and scanning and moving it through, I'm going to be stuck with it. And I don't know that I'm sad. So I just feel sad. So then I'm going to go find something to be sad about. Now I'm going to go home and make it about my relationship. Now we're back to relationship, right? And so this is the loop pattern that gets really, really scary in here.
It is. It is. Well, this is really good. It's so refreshing to go back through these chakras and just really dig in, because they're so important.
And there's such a great map, you know, and again, before we go wind down, the map of the body, right-hand side male, left-hand side female. So if my belly is off and I have pain and really bad angst on the backhand side of my right body, meaning my upper butt cheek area, my sciatic, my lower back, that means I'm angry with male. Who is it? What do I want to do with that? Or conversely, if I'm on the front side, maybe on the left-hand side, this means there's old female relationships that are still kind of gunky or goopy, but I'm not necessarily angry because the anger would be more so on the back. But I've got things that are holding me back. So we can play with all of these body parts and start to go, oh, duh, this is kind of the calculation. This is the actual, you know, I can break it down by knowing what these consciousness levels are and what is affected in what organs and why. This is the map, and it gets super easy when one knows that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last time, I think when we talked about the root chakra, you had some yoga poses, or
I don't know
movement.
if I even wrote those down on this one. It would be anything stretching that belly area. So I think they would have to refer to that. I'll do better on the next one.
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, that's okay. I just
How does it feel, Suzanne?
I don't even have my own book in front of me right now. But yeah. Anything stretching that belly, I would assume, and even going back to the even down dog and anything upside down too, to alleviate that lower back is really, really important there as well. And I think there's some back bending things and that arching thing. I know that that's one of them too, to open up the front side of it. So
yeah, to lay on your stomach and actually use your arms and go up, like squeezing the whole.
Yep.
That out.
And remember, this is connected to the root chakra because the root chakra is foundational, and we're going to build every one of these. We're going to be building like an ice cream tower, right? And each of these little scoops is going to have its own thing, but they all are going to melt together. So it's important.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Good talking on this one. And if you like this video, please hit like, please hit share, tell everybody about it if you choose to, which we hope you do, and leave a comment if you'd like, because we would like to be there for you. And we will return with what we got 5 more eventually. We're not going to do them every week, but about every other week.
Yeah. Right? We don't want to overwhelm you with chakras.
That's right. All right, everybody. Until next time, Cosmic Hugs.